Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a special live edition of Backlick Cinema, the podcast. And for this auspicious occasion, I have a haiku. See a criminal, see a man, behold meaning, see a leader rise. So that is the haiku. Hold on a second. There is a thing happening. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. There we go. um, hold on just a moment. There is an audio coming from somewhere, and I don't know where. This is my first stream, so stuff tends to happen, and I don't know what's going on, but I think I fixed it. All right, so uh, that was a haiku that I start my show with. It's usually um, something that has to do with the movie that we're going to talk about. My name is Zoe. It's spelled Z-O or Z to the O for those of you outside of the US. And this is Backlick Cinema the podcast. This is our live special Juneteenth episode, and it's the 144th show if you're keeping track. We watched the movies of yesteryear that we loved when we were just wee tykes, the movies of the latter half of the 20th century. If you like what you're about to hear, then please tell your family, tell your friends, and tell that striking, upright young man with the strange red hair about our humble little show. So, this show, as I said, is special because it's partly in honor of Juneteenth. It's also known as Emancipation Day, Freedom Day, or Jubilee Day. Excuse me, Jubilee Day for the celebration of Black history and culture, and partially because of our special guest, because she also has a very loyal YouTube audience, and I just wanted to do this to as a way to acknowledge them. So also happy Father's Day. I totally forgot that today was going to be Father's Day today, and so today I'll be inundated with Happy Father's Day message, and I want to extend that message to you. So my next guest has had multiple roles throughout her life. She's a model, an actor, journalist, entrepreneur, podcaster, and now in her most current form, a mental health advocate. Ladies and gentlemen, and friends across the spectrum, I humbly present to you Crystal Hicks of Let's Talk About This podcast.
Hi. How
Hi,
you doing, Zoe?
how you feeling?
Am I sound? Could you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh,
can,
okay. All
can
right.
you hear me?
Okay. I just want to make sure. How's everything going? Thanks for welcoming me on the platform. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Hopefully there's not a little delay. Do you detect a delay on your end?
Let me see. Actually, I don't know if there's a. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see here. Uh, okay. How am I sounding now?
You're sounding great. I can hear you instantly. How about me?
Okay, I can hear you pretty good. Yeah.
So
So
that's
how's
great.
everything?
Oh man, everything is great over here. Everything is we're doing pretty well. The stream is going good, so that's a relief.
Okay.
You
This
do,
is this is this is actually my first time doing a live. Uh
yeah.
I haven't
Mine
even done a I haven't even done a live on my own platform, so
too.
I'm a little nervous.
Don't worry, you're not alone. We're both virgins over here.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I don't feel too bad then.
Yeah, usually I when I put out my shows, they're audio only and they're heavily edited. At least as well nowadays, I make an effort to make it sound better, to edit out the awkward parts. But you don't have a chance to do that on a live. And when this goes out like on a live episode, it stays up on YouTube as a live video. You just click
Mhm.
on the live video tab. But the thing about that is that, you don't have a chance to edit that either. Or maybe you could. I don't know. I've never tried to edit a live video before. But it's one
Okay.
of those things where it's like, you're going to see us warts and all, folks.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yep.
There was like one little clip that I forgot to play before I introduced you, but you know what? That's all right. Mistakes are going to happen. As a
Oh,
matter of
yeah.
fact, it's this clip right here. See, it's the little things that you forget. That's what gets you.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. Yes. I have the same problem sometimes. I forget, like, because I do my own editing for my platform. So I actually taught myself the software when I started my podcast. And I was like, just playing around with it because I was a little lazy. I'm just one of those people who don't like to read rule instructions sometimes.
Right,
I like to try to figure things out on my own. So I
right,
played around with my software and I just learned how to edit my own podcast, and I'm still learning new tools to use. So yeah, every day is you learn something new.
right. The thing is that let's see, the what I've done is I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. So whenever there was something I didn't understand about the software or about anything like the equipment, anything that I was having trouble with, there are so many YouTube videos that you can go to. So like one of the main pieces of software that I use is it's called, what is it called? Audible? No, isn't no audio file audible. Hold on a second. I can't believe I am forgetting this.
Audible, I think that's what you're trying to say. I think Audible.
I think it's called Audible. But anyway, that's the main software that a lot of podcasters use to uh they use it to audit their audio files. And the reason that we use it is because Audacity, that's what it's called, not Audible.
Oh, Audacity. Okay, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I still use Zoom. I'm still using. I actually have um this stream this tool that we on now, StreamYard. I actually have
Yeah,
StreamYard too. But
right,
I don't
right,
know. I've gotten so comfortable with Zoom, switching over is kind of hard for me, but I do need to switch over because there's some things on Zoom that I can't do that you can do on these other software platforms, like having multiple cameras and going live and being able to stream live and stuff like that. So Zoom, they need to upgrade.
yeah. The thing about Zoom, it's primarily a meeting platform. They never designed it to do the things that something like StreamYard would do. It's strictly for
Oh,
meetings. You can record
okay.
on Zoom, but the recording
Right.
quality isn't like great because they didn't make it for like as an entertainment system. They made it so that you can like record
For
meetings
work.
for it's for you, right, for your business or
Yeah.
whatever. And people
Yeah.
just kind of adapted it to like entertainment. But these other
Right.
tools, and I've tried out different tools like StreamYard and what was the other ones? I can't even remember. They're still in the computer. Um,
Yeah.
there's one that's Zencaster. I remember trying. I used Zencaster for a while, but then they kind of changed up how they were doing things. I was like, I don't really like this one. So because
Right.
I didn't understand the ways that they were changing it, and it was different from the way the other streamers were doing it. So I stopped using that one. And then there was another one that I can't remember, but right now I'm kind of just sticking with StreamYard. It's pretty good for the things that I need to use it for.
Yeah. I think eventually I'm gonna switch over to StreamYard too, because I'm gonna need to, eventually I want to start doing live
Right,
streams
right,
and stuff like that.
right.
Um, but
Well, if you're needing any help, I'm right here. I can I can share a little
okay.
bit of knowledge that I have. So
Okay, that's good to know.
let me ask you a couple of questions. You've had a lot of different like phases in your life. You've had a lot of experiences. So my question is, how do you decide to go to the next phase of your life?
Um, how do I go to the next phase of my life? Um, you know what? That's a good question. I basically went to the next phase of my life when I experienced a really terrible accident a couple years ago. Really bad accident. To where I didn't think I was going to ever walk again. And from that accident, I experienced a lot of uh mental post traumatic problems. I had PTSD, and I was dealing with the aftermath of the trauma. So during that time that I was going through my healing journey, in which I'm still healing, because you know my right side of my body is still kind of weak a little bit. um I was going crazy, just sitting around in the house not being able to do anything because I was recovering from my injuries. And when you go from being able to get up and go and do what you want to being stuck in the house and not being able to move or walk, um, I had to find something to keep my mind busy. So I actually started the podcast, and I just felt like I had a purpose. And all it's funny because all my life I didn't know whether what a purpose was or what was my reason for being here. And then after the accident, God just gave me this spiritual warning that my life was saved to save other people's lives through mental health and wellness, because I struggled with it from the trauma that I experienced from the accident. And then I had this one episode on my podcast and we talked about mental health, and that clicked in my mind like, okay, I'm suffering with some mental problems. And I found that it went throughout my family. And then I said to myself, you know what? I need to base this podcast on mental health and wellness. So that kind of helped me pivot to the next level of my career as far as podcasting. But before podcasting, I was actually a freelance journalist years ago. I used to work for a local television show called the Nubian News out of Trenton, New Jersey. And I used to go out on the field. I was used to going out on the field, going backstage at concerts, going to different events and doing interviews, taking my cameraman with me. And this was before podcasting was as big as it is now. Before you had to go out and you could still, go out in the field if you want. But that was how I started as far as like media. I started through a local television show, and which they still I'm not sure if the Nubian News is still airing every week, but that's where everything started for me. And then I actually got out of freelance journaling for a while, and then I decided to get back in it, but this time do it through a podcast. And so the experience that I had with my accident kind of helped me pivot to the next level into podcasting. And I had to get used to podcasting because I had never talked to people face to face via internet. It was mostly out on the field. So that kind of helped me pivot to the next level of my career. And I'm still doing some things as far as like going to the next level. I still have a lot to do, I think. And I think that's why I spend so much time by myself, because time is not on nobody's side, and I'm getting older, so I have a lot to do and I have less time to waste. So right now I'm just so focused on the mental health and wellness podcast, and bringing people on the platform and sharing as much information as possible when it comes down to health and wellness, because this is something that wasn't taught to us in school or high school or college, how to master our emotions, because we have been taught to just sit around and hold things in and just keep moving about our lives, and then so for me, I was like, I need to educate myself more on health and mental health and wellness, and so I can share my story with other people and also be able to open up conversations about it. We don't have enough conversations about it. People don't understand their emotions. They don't understand why they react a certain way or why their behavior is the way that it is because they have a lack of information when it comes down to self-awareness. And I was in that boat, and I'm still in that boat because I'm still learning, you know. So, but yeah, I think that kind of helped me pivot a little bit to the next phase of my life, if that answers your question.
Yeah, yeah. It is, it was a comprehensive answer.
All right.
But it all centers around having, circumstances happening to you. We're not allowed to plan everything out all the time. Sometimes choices are forced upon us when we, come across, like in I feel like sometimes it's an overwhelming barrier that we hit, and that we have to find a way around the barrier, and it requires us to change course in a way that we had not planned out or that we had not expected. And this sounds like something that what you're describing is it sounds like something that you experienced.
Yes. Yes. Yes,
So
it was it. Yep.
now I was just about to ask, you've interviewed a lot of people on your show, like throughout your career, you interviewed a lot of celebrities, and then you interviewed a lot of mental health professionals on your show. So, who you find, out of everyone that you have interviewed, who's your most impactful interview? Who's the person that you've learned from the most? Do you feel?
Um, let's see. I had a lot of people on recently. I think the person I've learned the most from was a young lady by the name of um geesh, I can't even think of her name offhand. Uh the Experience with Kay is the name of her podcast. And she kind of woke me up when it came down to mental health and wellness, because she was the first interview that I had that kind of sparked the foundation for my podcast being where it is right now. Because she opened up so many things in that conversation that I've never even thought about. We talked about how why you react a certain way, and how mental health or mental illness. I hate to say mental health is a overall well-being thing, but
Right.
mental illness is actually a diagnosis. And I had to she helped me come to terms that I had a mental illness. I suffered from depression for a lot of years, and I never knew what I was going through until I started educating myself about it. It first started out years ago in the year 2000, I think it was, when I was having panic attacks. And I had no idea what panic attacks were. I thought I was having a heart attack. Now, I never had a heart attack before, but that's what it felt like. So, when I got to the emergency room, they said, okay, you had a panic attack. And I said, well, what is a panic attack? They said, well, are you going through anything in your life right now? Is there anything that you're experiencing at home? I said, well, I have a lot of things I'm going through right now. I just went through a divorce. Um, my daughter was pregnant and getting ready to have a baby. And so not only did I have to think about her and her brother I had to feed, but I had a grandchild I had to feed now, on one income. So I, I guess I didn't realize that a lot of things that were going on in my life had starting to take a toll on me, because as Black women, we ain't got time to be sitting around, you know, thinking about, what we gonna do. We got to get out there and we just got to get it done. I
Right.
had to go get another job, and then, I had to work overnight shifts, and to keep a roof over my kids, and keep a roof over our head. And there was a lot, and then the fact that I didn't really come to terms with my divorce, and everything just took a toll on me. So Kay, and she kind of helped me open up some wounds that I had patched up for a while, and she helped me come to terms with what I was going through, and I learned so much from that episode, to where it made me want to continue to learn more about mental health and wellness.
Well, that
So
is that's incredible.
yeah, yeah. She kind of opened up some things that I had sealed up, and I was like, wow. She made me think about certain things where it came down to my family, because in my family, I think it's more of a generational thing, to where it went from um, my grandmother to my mother to me to my daughter to I didn't want it to go to my grandchildren, so I'm kind of broke the chain, with the podcast. So now my family could watch the podcast and they can learn a lot of things as far as mental health and wellness. And, it kind of helped me put pieces to the puzzle as to why my mother suffered for so long and didn't get help. So, I felt like this was my purpose. This is my purpose, to be able to help people when it comes down to their mind, because we so busy go to the gym. We work out at the gym all the time, but we forget that our mind is attached to our body.
Right.
So we have to you have to work out your mind just like you work out your body, you know? So yeah, I would have to say the experience with Kay. That was one of the
That's
most impactful interviews that I've done.
I feel
As a
like
matter of
that.
fact, we had about 6,000 views, I think, somewhere
That's
around there. Yeah. Yep.
I yeah, I was just about to say that I can imagine how you've helped so many other people. Like if you helped yourself in that episode, then you must have been able to help so many other people in that interview.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I must have for it to hit 6,000 views. And that was
Right.
like, and she brought it to my attention. She said, "Did you look at your podcast?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, that interview we did, we got almost 6,000 views. I was like, "Oh, okay." Because I wasn't really paying attention to the numbers. And I still don't really pay attention to numbers because I don't want to get distracted with numbers. I want
Right.
to be able to be focused on, you know, I want to be not the problem, but I want to be the solver.
Right.
I want to focus on solving the problem, by bringing people on and sharing valuable information to help people open up and have more conversations. You know, so yep.
All right. So shifting gears just a little bit, you've been an actor and a model, and you've been like in the entertainment business. So has that experience helped you in your interviews?
Um, I can't. Well, I would have to say that when I doing being a freelance journalist in the past, that kind of helped me in my interviews. As far as like the acting, that was something that I just dabbled into. Because I was a extra. I had extra roles in major films like Fallen. I was in the Fallen Denzel Washington movie. uh, we shot that movie in Philadelphia. I remember that so well because I ate so many cheesesteaks. And it's like certain scenes where they say you gotta eat this and walk this way and walk that way. And so I did a lot of extra films. I was an extra in Beloved, the Oprah Winfrey film, and I was an extra also in Snake Eyes with Nicolas Cage. So the experience of just being on a movie set and being around movie stars. At first, I couldn't believe I was there. I was like, I had to tell somebody who was standing next to me. I said, "Could you pinch me?" And I'm standing next to Denzel Washington, and she was like, "No, you're really here." But it was a nice experience. But that wasn't originally what I set out for. I actually set out to be a model, a print model, because I had went to Barbizon School of Modeling. And at first I did it for fun, but then it became something that I really wanted to do. And once I graduated from Barbizon School, they were sending me, I had to look for an agent because I couldn't find any work, because most of the work they were getting was mostly for the white girls. And I was like, how come all these white girls are getting work and I'm not getting any work? So I said, I need to go find my own agent. So I went and found my own agent, and she started sending me on auditions for movies. And that's how I ended up getting into the movies, because I was getting calls to be on the set. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll just go and on the set.
Right,
But
right,
I had to specify to my agent that I wanted to do be a print model. And a print model is different from a runway model, because runway models are tall, skinny, and long legs. And I didn't have all of those. I wasn't built like that. So I was like, okay, I could be a face for a product. So that's really what I really wanted to do. And I ended up getting doing print modeling for a soap opera magazine, and I did like 25, maybe 26 uh stories for Jive and Black romance magazines and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's how it all um started for me, years ago. And then, with me having my children and trying to do a career in the entertainment industry, it was kind of tough. So I kind of got away from it for a while. Yep.
right, right. So, moving on to
Okay.
here's the thing, right? I was listening to what you're saying, and then my mind totally blanked out.
Oh,
As
okay.
as want to happen sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. That does happen. That happened to me sometimes too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Sorry for the blank out.
Oh, that's
But
okay.
yeah, yeah.
I might have put you to sleep, I guess. I hope I ain't
No,
put you to sleep.
no. It was what happened was you said that you were on set and you were standing next to Denzel Washington, and then I started to think, oh, we're about to talk about something about Denzel
Ah,
Washington.
yeah. It was nice. It was really nice being on that. I'm telling you, I was like shocked that I was on set, because I was like, "Well, am I really here? Like, I can't
Right,
believe it." And I felt the same way when I was on the set for Beloved, because the movies, being that I live in New Jersey, most of the auditions that I was going for were for movies that were being filmed in Philadelphia or Atlantic City, and because that was close to where I live. So, and I was getting the calls to come back on set and
right.
get into costume. And if you blink, you'll miss me. But it
And
was nice to have that experience.
right. The other thing you said was that you wanted to be a print model, and because you could do like because you weren't built like a runway model. So when you said that, I started thinking, oh, you mean like a hand model? And then I started to think,
Oh yeah.
and then I started to think I could never be a hand model because I always bite my nails. My
Wow.
fingernails are atrocious, so I could never do that. But
Right.
and
Right.
and the reason I have an audio only podcast is because I have a face for radio.
Right.
So,
Right. Right. Yeah. Right.
but you don't have that. You don't have that problem. So that's awesome. So the I want you to let the audience know where they can find you. Like you're the host of Let's Talk About This podcast on YouTube. It's
Mm-hmm.
mainly on so is are there any places they can follow you on social media, or are there any other things you want to plug? Do you have a store? Do you have a website? Let the people know where they can find you.
Well, you can find my podcast on YouTube, and it's Chicks 2567. It's my first initial last name, Chicks, and 2567. So just Chicks 2567. And when you search for that, you'll see it'll say, let's talk about this. So it'll pop right up and say, let's talk about this. So you will be able to find me on there. And I do have Instagram and uh, TikTok page and a Twitter page. And I only use these social media platforms strictly for business purposes. So on these different platforms, you're going to see a lot of episodes from the videos from the podcast. So I have one page that I use for personally for me, and that page is that's like my personal page where people could see me doing just the regular normal things, going to the shore and going to the beach. I needed a page where I could just get my mind away from interviews and just strictly on a regular normal life. So I have a regular page. It's Crystal Hicks underscore Marie, and that's my other page. So yeah. Yep. Those are
Yeah.
my platform handles. So yeah, you'll find me on those pages. And once you get on one page, I have links, and then once you hit the link, it's going to link you to all the other pages too. So
Right,
so
right.
yeah.
Yeah. I want to
Yeah.
try to go ahead and put those links so that, if they want to follow you, they want to learn more about how they can improve their own mental health, then they can click those links in and they can follow you along.
Mhm. Yep. Yep, come on over because it's a place, it's a safe place for people to come and open up and talk about whatever they want to talk about. You ain't got to worry about being judged by anybody. And it's just a place for us to have a conversation and to learn about mental health and wellness and how to take care of our bodies and our mind, because we often spend a lot of time doing everything but taking care of ourselves. And I don't care how much money you have, rich, poor, black, white, Asian, whatever, everybody has emotional and physical problems, and it's because we don't really pay attention to those things that we really should be paying attention to.
Right, right.
Yep.
So let's go on to the next segment, and we're gonna keep the show moving along to the next segment. I don't know why I'm repeating myself. It happens sometimes. All right, this is the opening credits. So I sent you a list of movies, and the movie that you chose was Malcolm X. Why don't you let people know why you chose this movie?
Malcolm X, let me tell you, I was watching it last night for the second time. I didn't get all the way through it the second time, but I've always been amazed by Malcolm X. He was always came across as being, not only was he started out being a hustler and a drug dealer and a robber and all this kind of stuff, but he had a sharp mind. His mind was so sharp. Like every time you saw him in an interview and somebody asked him a question, he was quickly to respond with an answer. And the answers he always gave was so deep and always gave you something to think about, you know. Um he was just a powerful black man, and he had so much power to the point where it's sad that I, in my personal believe that somebody in the organization pretty much took him out, but he was just a powerful black man, very educated. Um, and he was an example of how you can go from being a criminal and changing your life around to being somebody important and saving someone else's life. So he was just very powerful to me. And his comments and his quotes were just spot on, you know. And that's really what I loved about Malcolm X. I mean, he was just a strong, powerful black man.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
indeed. So I meant to ask you this.
And some.
I meant to ask you this earlier, but you have your show notes available? You have them ready?
I actually, yep, I do. I just pulled them up. Where are we?
Okay.
Where we at? Number 2 or 4?
Yeah,
Should I
we're at
just
number
go from the
2.
beginning?
Yeah, start at number 2. You're just gonna read
Okay.
the yellow highlighted part. So tell us about Malcolm X.
Okay. So it's well, there he's a young man struggling through life. In order to get ahead of the struggle, he turns to a gangster lifestyle, but his life only led to a stint in prison. While incarcerated, he finds a mentor that shows him meanings in the struggle, and this meaning is so impactful that the young man begins to teach the lessons he learned. And after his time in prison, he becomes a leader, a fighter, an inspiration, and an agent of change. In his former life, he was called Malcolm Little, and the world knows him as Malcolm X.
Yeah,
So,
that's an incredible story that of his.
yes,
So this movie was released November 18th, 1992,
night, night,
I'm sorry?
produced produced by
Oh, no,
uh,
I get this part.
Spike Lee, right? Spike
Yeah,
Lee.
right, I
Yeah.
get this part. It's produced by Largo International NV and JVC Entertainment Networks and 40 Acres and a Mule Filmworks. That's Spike Lee, 40 Acres and a Mule. It grossed
Mm-hmm.
over $48 million in the US and Canada on a reported budget of $33 million worldwide. No, actually, that's not even a worldwide budget. That's just that's just the film budget. So this movie did not make as much money as I thought it would. If you adjust it for inflation, then that would mean it grossed over $107 million, and that the budget was $73 million. Now, conventional wisdom when you're talking about filmmaking or most businesses is that in order to make a profit, you want to make more money on the product than what it costs to produce the product, and then you get profit. And
Right.
so you make a movie for 70. If you make a movie for $107 million and you only make $73 million, then that is a problem. That is what you call
Somebody ain't getting paid.
right, right. That is what you call a flop. And I'm sad to see
Yeah.
that that's what happened. It's like they worked, they fought so hard, especially Spike Lee fought so hard to get the money that he felt they needed to make this movie. And this
Mm-hmm.
movie, did not return on the budget. So
Yeah.
that's that. But I found
And
this movie. Go ahead.
it was a well put together film. I mean,
Yeah,
I was surprised that the movie didn't gross as much as it did.
right.
I mean, the
Like I thought.
details. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. You said and the
I said
detail.
that I said the details of the film. I mean, the film was excellent. It was excellently put together. So I was surprised that the film didn't do as well as it did.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
but
I
here's
was.
the thing: there was a lot of turnouts for the movie, though. If you went to the movie theaters everywhere around the country, the movie theaters were packed.
Right, that's what I was thinking. That's why I thought it was a hit because when I went to the theater, I remember it was packed going in. I remember the theater was packed. I remember it was my grandmother that took us to the theater to watch the movie.
Mm-hmm.
She took us to 2 movies for our entire life. She took us to see this one and she took us to see Lean on Me. So those were the 2.
Okay.
And yeah, I remember this movie being packed, but I guess it just didn't have the staying power. Like it was probably in the theater for like maybe just a couple of weeks, and then it was just washed away by other movies that came along. I think
Yeah.
the other thing that might have caused this is that this movie was 3 hours and 23 minutes, or 3 hours and 33 minutes, something like that. It's 3.5 hours. That's a lot.
Mhm.
You're asking a
Yeah.
lot from the audience. And then as I watched it, I realized, oh yeah, this movie is kind of long.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of parts that he certainly could have shortened. There are some scenes that, events that could have been montages that would that's what they would do in most films. And I can understand the impulse of kind of like dragging it out and trying to show everything. But
Mhm.
at the same time, you do want to, you don't want to stretch a movie out to be too long. but
Yeah.
but this is that being said, this is definitely one of my favorite Spike Lee films. It's has a one of the reasons that it's one of my favorites is because it has a definitive ending. So like
Mhm.
a lot of his movies, they don't feel it feels like he doesn't know how to end a movie, or
Mhm.
it's that the ending is kind of ambiguous, and it always unsettles me. So
Mm.
that's always been my issue with the Spike Lee movie. But in this movie,
Yeah.
it feels more definitive. And I guess because you're doing a life story of somebody, you kind of know what the ending is. So you don't really have a chance of being too ambiguous with with how
With
you
the
tell the
film.
story. Right, right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
we're gonna go and talk about like the actors. Like I said, we you read the highlighted parts in yellow, and I'm gonna read
Okay.
the other parts. So why don't you start us off with the star of the
The
movie?
star, Denzel Washington, Malcolm X, Fences, Book of Eli, Training Day, Flight.
So did
Uh,
you see any of those movies?
I actually seen Training Day was good.
Mhm.
The Book of Eli. Did I see the Book of Eli? I think I've started watching the Book of Eli, but I didn't get the whole film.
Right.
Um, but uh, but yeah, and the actors in the film, Delroy Lindo, West
Oh,
Indian Archie.
let me get Angela Bassett before you continue.
Oh yeah, we gotta get Angela. Oh, Liv, let me. I'm skipping over. You go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Also, but before we continue, I want to pause at Book of Eli. Yeah, go check that film out. I don't know if you're really into sci-fi or apocalyptic futures or anything like that, but considering your religious background, you might enjoy the Book of Eli because it is definitely about some. It basically it's a story about a guy who's charged with basically protecting or defending uh a religious text. So and that's basically what that's about. So I think you should go and check that out when you get a chance.
Yeah.
And on training day, I um I had covered that in episode 131. Is definitely one of my favorite films. And
Mm,
it's based on it's a story that's based on true events. So it's
right.
definitely one of Denzel Washington's best roles. He's so I mean, in a lot of his roles, he takes on the role of somebody who's a leader because he has that value about him. He has a thing where you feel like he's charismatic, he's taking charge, and in Training Day is like a twist.
Right. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yep.
same thing with Flight. Like he's a leader. Where or in Flight he kind of has the potential to be a leader, but it's like a leader with a twist. So
Hmm.
it's one of those parts where like he takes his charisma and he turns it a little bit. He turns it on its side. So it's a different side of what you normally think of as the Denzel Washington charisma. So
Hmm.
also in this film was Angela Bassett. She plays Betty Shabazz. She's also been on Strange Days, Black Panther,
Hmm.
and Waiting to Excel. I cover in episode 97.
Hmm. Hmm. And then you have Delroy Lindo, who's in West Indian Archie and Get Shorty, The Five Bloods, was it The Core?
Right.
So yeah,
Just to clarify, he wasn't in a movie called West Indian Archie. That's the character he played.
yeah.
Uh
Oh, West Indian Archie is the
right, right,
character.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what did you think about West Indian Archie?
Uh, I thought he was excellent in the
Right.
film. I thought he nailed it right on. I mean, he his character was so believable, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I thought he did a really excellent job in the film. Yeah, he
yeah,
was really good.
yeah. Delroy Lindo is like he definitely adds an incredible amount of gravity to any role that he takes on. It's just when you see him, you just want to watch more of him. It's like you have a hard time. It's like let me see another film with
Yeah,
Lindo.
he makes his characters be so believable. You
Yeah,
know, he's an excellent actor.
right. There's a rumor that's going around that has him playing Whistler in the next Blade movie that is probably not going to be made, but
I
it's
don't.
like
Yeah,
yeah, but it's like if you have Delroy Lindo as Whistler and then you have Mahershala as Blade, how can you mess that up? But I feel like they're gonna mess it up.
yeah. I feel that way too. I don't know why, but
Right, right, right. It's foreboding. So anyway, next up is Spike Lee. He plays Shorty. He's also in Do the Right Thing. She's Gotta Have It. More Better Blues, and pretty much every film that he directs and every commercial he directs, he always he always puts himself in there.
Mhm. He like Diddy. When Diddy
Yeah,
record music, he always in the songs.
yeah, he got like that. Well,
Or always in the video.
right, right.
That's how Spike Lee was.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He was
Uh,
who's that guy that I'm thinking about? I can't think of him. He it's a director that plays what's his name? God, I hate it when this happens. He plays a woman. That's as close as I can get. He plays an old woman all the time on all of his movies. And Medea. So what's the guy's name?
Medea. That's what I was going to say. Tyler Perry.
Yeah, Tyler Perry. That's what
Yeah,
Tyler Perry does. He puts himself in all of his movies.
yeah, yeah.
Spike Lee is the original version of Tyler Perry.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's what I was trying to
yeah,
say. And then my mind went.
yeah.
All right, take on the next actor.
And then we have Albert Hall, who plays Baines, and how do you say that again? I can't even think of it.
Apocalypse.
Ap- Apocalypse now. And Major Payne and National Treasure, and he also was in the Book of Secrets.
Oh, that's my bad. National Treasure Book of Secrets is actually that's the name of the movie.
That's the name of the movie. You can tell
Yeah,
I don't watch a whole lot of movies, so
that's all right. That's all right. I didn't watch National Treasure Book of Secrets, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, Albert
okay.
Hall is pretty cool because he's always playing a person of authority. He's either a soldier or a cop, and in this movie, he's a mentor to Malcolm X. So it makes total sense that he would have that role. Up
Mm-hmm.
next, up next is Al Freeman Jr. He plays Elijah Muhammad, and you may have also seen him in Castle Keep, The Detective, The Dutchman, or well, for most people, I feel most people would know him as a soap opera actor on One Life to Live. Now, the thing is, like, when I put these notes in, I try to narrow it down to the movies that
Mm-hmm.
these actors have appeared in. But sometimes I want to put in a whatever TV show that they may have been in that's probably
Mm.
more impactful or that people would probably know him from because nobody remembers a movie called The Detective, but
Right.
surely somebody probably would have seen him in the one of the he's in 200 episodes over 200 episodes of One Life to Live, so somebody have seen him in a couple of those episodes. Like he must have played a
Mm.
major character to be in over 200 episodes
Oh
of the
yeah,
soap.
yeah. Wow,
But
isn't that something? I didn't know that he was in what. Well, I didn't watch. That wasn't one of my favorite soap
right, right,
operas,
right.
so I didn't know that he was in that.
Yeah, this is a
Um.
movie I've only seen him in, and he. I think most of his career as a film actor, he's is like back in the '60s. It's like the heyday of his film career, and then he kind of just transitioned to television and just kind of stayed in television. But one of the most
Mhm.
important movies that he did was called The Detective. It's a Frank Sinatra movie, and I say it's important because The Detective is actually the movie that the characters of Die Hard are based on. So like John McClane is the character that Frank Sinatra essentially plays in a movie called The
Mhm.
Detective. He plays them under
Mm.
different. So this is so important. Like D- Die Hard is basically a sequel to The Detective, and it's so important
Mm.
that they they were contractually bound to offer Frank Sinatra the role of John McClane before they could look for other actors. That's how important that The Detective
Wow.
is to Die Hard. And bear in mind, Frank Sinatra at the time was in his 60s. So but
Mhm.
they had to at
Right.
least offer him the role before they could look for a younger actor and finally found Bruce Willis. So I found
Yeah.
that fascinating. Um
Wow.
who's
Yeah, Die
who's
Hard
the
was good.
yeah, it's one of my favorites. Who's the next actor?
Okay, and then we have Teresa Randall. What happened to Teresa Randall? Speaking of Teresa Randall, I haven't seen her in anything lately. And maybe I really haven't been watching a whole lot of movies lately, but I love her. She's great.
Mhm.
She played in Laura and Bad Boys for Life and Spawn and Girl 6.
Right.
So
So
she only did a few movies, huh?
no, she did a bunch of movies. I only put like 3 of them that she was in.
Oh, you
Now
only
here
put oh, okay.
right. She's been in a bunch of movie, a bunch of TV shows. I think she's on a TV show now, and that's why I didn't put it down because it's a TV show. But
Okay.
she's on a TV show now, so she's still working, she's still acting. But here's what's
Okay.
curious: she's been in all of the Bad Boy movies. And Bad Boys for Life was the last movie that she was in. She plays, I think she plays, what's his name, Martin Lawrence's wife in the Bad Boys
Yeah.
movies, except for the one that just came out, except for Bad Boys for Life. So Bad Boys for Life, no, not Bad Boys. I'm sorry, Bad Boys Ride or Die. That's what it's called. Bad
Ride or
Boys for
Die.
Life.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Bad Boys for Life was a movie that she was last in playing Marcus' wife. And
Mhm.
Bad Boys Ride or Die, she's not in. They had another actor replace her, which is
Yeah.
crazy because Bad Boys Ride or Die is like one of the most successful Bad Boy movies, and it's like one of the most successful movies currently, like right now. It's like
Mm.
breaking box offices right now. It's a blockbuster
Yeah.
in modern parlance. So I don't know why she wasn't able to do the movie. It could have been contractual, or it
Yeah.
could have been something else. So that was strange. But yeah,
Yeah.
Teresa Randall, she's still out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And Bad Boys did good. They said the opening week it was at over 100 and something million. I don't know the
Right.
exact number, but it was over 100 million
Yeah.
uh for the first weekend.
Right. I saw it and I thought it was pretty good. It was very it was smartly written, and I like when a movie is written with some intelligence behind it. So that's what I enjoyed about it. Up next
Mhm.
is Kate Vernon. She plays Sophia. She's also in Pretty in Pink and Snatched. She's been in
Mhm.
uh, several other movies. She's on TV a lot now, but those are the one that I got down for this.
Mhm. And then we have Lynette McKee, who plays Louise Little, and she also was in Brewster's Millions and Jungle Fever.
Right. We have it's funny because when I was typing up her notes, like Brewster's Million, like, oh, I remember her from Brewster's Million.
Mhm.
We
Yep.
also have Tommy Hollis. He played Earl Little. You also can find him in Ghostbusters and Moonstruck, but also a lot of television roles.
Mhm. And then James McDaniel, who played in Brother Earl and Strictly Business and Sunshine State.
Right. And finally, we have Ernest Thomas. He played Sydney. He's been in Funny People, paroled, and What's Happening. That's another TV show. What's Happening at the end. The others I just mentioned were movies, but I had to put that there because
Mhm.
I remember going to the theater and looking at it. I was like, wait a minute, I know that guy because I
That
used to
was the
watch.
first thing. Yep. What's
Yeah, I used
happening?
to. Right, I used to watch What's Happening all of the time. So that was
Yeah.
one of my favorite shows. And so when I seen him on screen, it was like an awakening. I think because he I had seen him in a while because he's much older in this movie than he was when he was playing Roger in What's Happening. So it's
Mhm.
that I recognize him without his glasses and as an older person. It was just remarkable seeing him.
Yeah.
It was like I don't think that I fully recognize that people can play different parts. I guess I don't know what it is, but it was just remarkable that I
You get
recognized him
so
in the next
Yeah,
movie.
because you get so used to seeing them and they're just playing those you just get used to them saying playing those characters that you don't want to
Right.
see them in anything else, you know? Like
Well,
sometimes you might see a character and you be like for instance, who you're talking about, you'll be like, ain't that the guy from What's Happening Now? You
you're
know,
right.
we only see him in those that one role. But when we see
Right.
them in something different, it kind of feels weird a little bit.
Right. Yeah. I think what it is, you see him out of context. It's kind of shocking.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true.
So tell us about the director.
Directed by Spike Lee. He also did directed Do the Right Thing, She's Gotta Have It, Jungle Fever, Old Boy, Passing Strange, and Inside Man.
Yeah.
So
What's remarkable is that most of these movies are movies that he's had a hand in writing. He rarely does a movie that he doesn't write himself. So
mhm.
that's fascinating. But yeah, he's had a huge breadth of movies. He's sometimes good, sometimes bad, but he's always moving forward. So that's pretty remarkable.
Yep, and he produced all of his own films, didn't he?
Right,
He's
right,
the
right. Yeah.
producer of all of his own films and director. So,
Pretty,
yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
So this movie was written by Arnold Pearl, Spike Lee, and Alex Haley. And there's some additional notes to this because these are the what do you call it? These are the credited writers, but there's more to the story. So
Mhm.
Pearl, he lived from 1914 to 1971. He's written he's written screenplays or stories for Fiddler on the Roof, the Malcolm X documentary in 1972, and Jazz on a Summer's Day. That was a film that he did.
Mhm.
James Baldwin is a friend of Malcolm X. He wrote the screenplay for this film that we're about to talk about, which
Mhm.
was meant to be produced and released in the early 70s. Baldwin's experience of working with Hollywood was extremely frustrating, and he walked away from the project. The script was then edited by Pearl and sold to Columbia Pictures. In 1972, Baldwin published his own version of the script titled One Day When I Was Lost. Baldwin's family asked that his name be removed from Lee's Malcolm X, given Baldwin's disdain for the project. So Baldwin wrote a script. He had a horrible time. You can imagine the studio kept interfering with his writing process. Like they want him to write in a way that he didn't want to write, basically. So
Mhm.
he was
Yeah.
like, "Let's do this," and he was like, I don't want nothing to do with this no more. So that's why he's not credited on the film. Uh,
Mm.
Lee, Lee, as we talked about before, he wrote most of his own movies. Some other movies that we could talk about is Crooklyn, Clockers, He Got Game, and Black Klansman. So those were just some of the many movies that he wrote. And finally, Haley, he actually did write another movie. It's called Superfly TNT. He actually wrote that, and and then we have
Mm.
we have Roots, 1977, is based on his book, his basically his autobiographical book Roots. And then we have this film. Oh, actually, what I meant to say was that this film Malcolm X is based on Alex Haley's book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just a packed film. So what's fascinating is that this film was essentially written in like 1968 and didn't get made until like, or it didn't get it didn't premiere in what do you call it? It didn't premiere in movie theaters until 1992.
Like,
So like it
wow,
took
that's a
20,
long time.
yeah, it took about 20 years to get this film made.
Mm,
It basically, the script was written and then locked in a vault, and then
mm,
Spike Lee got access to the vault and made this movie. That's, I think I can say that's basically what happened. I can safely say that is what happened.
right, right, right,
So
right.
can you talk about the score?
Oh yeah, the score was by Terrence Blatchard. He's done The Woman King, Harriet. He's done One Night in Miami, Father of the Bride, and Red Tails. And he also did Cadillac Records, which was a
Yeah.
good film.
Have you seen any of the other films?
Actually, yeah, I've saw Harriet, which was good. The Woman King was excellent, excellent film. That was a tremendous written movie. These were great films, really good films that were written and produced.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the music in these films. I didn't actually. I've only seen A Woman King, Harriet, and Red Tail, but I
Hmm.
did really enjoy the music in The Woman King. That was pretty impactful.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it for the opening credits. We learned some things about the people making the film. So
Hmm.
we want to go ahead and talk about the film. But before we do that, let's get some announcements out the way. As it turns out, I don't really have any announcements right now. I guess I could have researched my own projects to see what I was up to, but I decided not
Right.
to. But what I will do is talk about is you sent in a clip from your show. So I don't know if you remember. It's a conversation that you had with Jasmine Dude. Is it Jasmine? Am I saying that right?
Jasmine.
Dude
Which?
is on
Uh.
how social media influences mental health.
Jessamine Dodd.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
okay,
I know.
I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if I was saying that right. All right, let me
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me go ahead and play that clip.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing about media is, especially now, with social media, because before social media came existed, we didn't get as much information as we got now, as we get now. I mean, you would have to go to the store and get a newspaper if you wanted to read, or you would go on television and watch the news. Now we have access to almost everything that's going on around the world.
All right, so that's a clip from your show. You're talking about mental health, and I hope that you learned a lot when you did that episode.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We talked a lot about the Diddy situation, um, and Donald Trump. So that's the biggest thing in the news right now.
Right,
Uh,
right,
it's-
right.
we got- uh, I learned a lot from that episode. She the thing I really got to me during that interview was actually seeing the video from the situation with Diddy and Cassie. That just opened up a can of worms on domestic violence, and the violence that a lot of and men are abused as well. I don't want to, you know, just make it seem like it's just women, but it was seeing things and hearing things is like two different things. It's like
Right.
it's different when you actually visualize and see it. And when we saw that video, it was just horrific. I mean, and then it made me think about the abuse that she might have the abuse that she sustained behind closed doors, the things that people didn't see.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, that was, and they're still I guess the FBI is still working on that case, but it was just sad to see what we all saw, on
Right.
video, so, and then talk about Donald Trump, after he was charged with all those charges that he received, you could just see the difference between the things white folks get away with and the things that we don't get away with. So is these two cases is going to be is interesting to watch,
Right.
and it's really interesting to watch. But that was a really good episode with Jessamine Dodd. She's a digital journalist and news former news anchor, and it was a pleasure having her come on and share her perspective on the Diddy case and the Donald Trump case,
Right.
so
Right. Right.
yeah,
So let's
yeah.
move on and talk about our favorite parts of Malcolm X. So I want you to start off. I want you to tell the audience what you feel like your favorite
My
parts are.
favorite parts in that film,
But
Malcolm X.
also, before we get started, I want to limit it to 5 favorite parts. So we
Okay.
talk. So
So we
just kind
don't
of
over.
right. So because we could talk for hours and hours because the movie's 3 hours long. We could go on for days. So just to kind of limit it a little bit, we just
Yeah,
want to focus on 5 of our favorite parts.
yeah. Well, I know one of my favorite parts in the film was when he tried to uh when he got with the white lady and left his girlfriend. He walked her home, and it's funny how men, I ain't gonna say all men, but it's funny how men don't think that we know things. Women, we have natural instincts, and and when she told him to walk, who was the character's name again? The white lady character, Kate. What's her
That was
name?
Sophia. Her name was Sophia.
Sophia. Yeah,
Sophia.
when Sophia, yeah, when she told him to walk her home and come back and get her, she automatically knew why he was. And the scene, the scene was so funny because you could see him hurrying up, walking her home so he can get back to the Sophia. And
Right.
and then he gonna say when he get to the step, oh, I guess I shouldn't go in. I'm like, she like, what do you mean you shouldn't go in? You trying to get back to this chick, this white lady is who you trying to get back to. I'm not
Right.
white
Right.
enough for you.
Right.
So that was one of the scenes that, because the way then he tried to make it seem like he had to go to work the next day. I'm like, are you
Right.
kidding me? No, you was just trying to get back to that other woman. That's who that was. So, you know, that was one of the parts in the film that kind of cracked me up a little bit. And then also there was another part in the film that that I like was uh when he was in prison, and
Right.
the brother was breaking it down to him that the things that a black man should a black man should stay away from. And the way he broke that down, like he said, you need to stay away from the pork. He was like, you need to educate yourself and fly straight forward and not get caught up in a white man's world. And that was a very interesting part, because it opens up people's eyes as to things that we really don't pay, people don't pay attention to,
Right.
because we came, we were brought over here from Africa, and once we got here, we got caught up into the white man's world. And, the fact that we start, and even now today, we still kind of get caught up into the because if you really pay attention to a lot of things, you see a lot of us black women wearing these long wigs trying to look like white women. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You see, and I was included. I mean, I used to wear wigs all the time too, but now you're starting to see us trying to look like white women, whereas one point white women were trying to look like us. you know.
Right.
So it's both ways though. It's not just one sided. You know, you got the white women trying to look like us, and then you got the black women trying to look like the white women. So it's like,
Well, there
you
are
know,
two ways
now
to
you
look at
know
it.
we all us black women was not born naturally with boobs that stick way, you know, and our butts way. I mean, we getting all these plastic surgeries and getting things done to our bodies to look a certain way, and I just think that we getting away from being our natural selves. You know, we
Well,
got caught up into.
now what you're saying, there are two ways that you look at, well, specifically the hair. So, and what I'm seeing, at least currently, is that Black women are really expressing themselves with their natural hair. They're more, especially in the younger
Well,
generation, they're
now,
right. They're more
yeah,
active with
now
natural hair.
now we're starting to be more. We're starting to express ourselves. You're right. We're starting to
Right,
look more natural now. You know, like
and
for instance, I don't shave my hair. I'm like,
right,
I
and
don't want
I
to be
think,
bothered with no hair.
and the reason that Black women, especially like in the earlier, especially like in this like 70s, 80s, and 90s, the main reason that they straightened their hair, it was made, they put relaxer in their hair to make it look more white, is because it was, and this is specifically for the women, not necessarily for the men, but
Hmm.
it was because there was a lot of pressure for them to have their hair look like a white woman's hair in order to get
Mm.
jobs, in order
But
to
yeah.
get, be treated well when you go into a restaurant or that sort of thing. It's
Hmm.
just, it was an exercise in assimilation. Black women had to assimilate. That's why they changed their hair. I mean,
Hmm.
it's also a style, but it was a pressure to assimilate into society in order to get ahead, or even just to survive. And then
Yeah.
later on, when there wasn't, like, you have in the military, you have to actually make rules saying that you can't suppress women for wearing their natural
Right.
hair, because that's what the in the military they were going to keep women from wearing their natural hairstyles, because you can't just straighten out your hair all of the time. You'll kill your hair, you destroy your hair. So
Right.
the military had to make rules saying you can't suppress these natural hairstyles. So
Hmm.
when it started in the military, but then also in the business world, and also with certain states, and I'm not sure if Congress did it, but I know there are
Uh-huh.
certain states that passed something like the Crown Act, which says that
Hmm.
people can wear their, you can't have like excessive rules over how people wear their hair, right? You can't
Hmm.
discriminate against them based on race. So because now it's not, there's not as much pressure to assimilate into having the same hairstyle as a white woman or white people in general, then
Right.
people from other cultures can wear their hair more naturally, and with, because you don't have that pressure going on. But when,
Right.
like, say like a white person wants to wear their hair like a black person, that can, they often get accused of cultural appropriation, because it's like, first you demonize the hairstyle, and now you want to wear the hairstyle, now you want to appropriate the culture. So that's
Right.
just a different way of looking. As like, it means differently because it comes from a different place.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we were under a lot of pressure, you know.
Right, right, definitely. Let me
But now you're
mention.
starting to see a lot of us. You're starting to see a lot of us going back to being more natural now. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
wearing our natural hair. You don't
right,
see too many people putting perms in their hair anymore like they used
right,
to.
right. Let me mention one of my favorite parts. I really like the zoot suits in the beginning of the movie. You had the
Oh
zoot,
yeah, those suits.
and the way they were, the way they walk with like a swing step, they had that swagger about them. I really like that. It was just wild seeing that on screen, and they wear it well, especially Denzel Washington. Who, the this padded shoulders, the super long length of the coats, the baggy pants,
Hmm.
they wore it well. So I have to say that it was a outstanding representation of the zoot suit.
Oh yeah, yeah. At first, when I saw in the beginning, I was like, "Why is they walking like that?"
Right, right,
With
right,
that
right.
art, but that's just the way it was, I guess. You know, back then, that's how they walked.
I think that's how certain people walked.
Mhm. Yeah.
um, what you call? Oh, go ahead and tell me another one of your favorite parts.
Oh, And then I would have to say another part in the movie would have to be I'm trying to refresh my mind from what I saw. But the
You know what?
when
Go ahead.
his mother, and her mother was raped by a white man, and his mother didn't want, you know she hated the fact that she had that white blood in her, and she wanted her children to look as, that's why she got with the black man, you know because she wanted her children to be more black, rather than have that white type of blood in them.
Right. Yeah. So
But
yeah.
that was a significant part in that film, because women were raped by their slave masters, back in those times, and it wasn't by choice that they had babies with these white men. They were raped.
Right. Yeah, he was talking about his maternal grandmother was raped by
Mm-hmm.
a white man. I don't know if he specified that it was a slave master, but it was definitely a white man. And that
Mm-hmm.
way his mother came out very fair skinned. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I don't I think it's equal parts that she didn't like that she was that her mother was raped by a white man, and also her mother was raped. Like
Mm-hmm.
so I
Right.
think that also has a lot to do with it. And that's why Malcolm X himself, that's why he has that slightly red hair, because
Mm-hmm.
it kind of trickled down to him. That's how it manifested in him. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why people called him red, because he had red hair.
Red hair. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, that definitely has an impact on like your entire family. And it's like how his family was also, living and growing up in the South, being horribly treated by the white people that they were surrounded by. So, constantly being attacked by the Klan,
Mm-hmm.
who were members of that community, and
Mm-hmm.
having their property burned down, and all the things that could happen to a person just trying to exist in the world. So
And just
yeah.
just trying to exist. And
Right.
another thing in the film that struck me was after her husband was murdered, his
Hmm.
father was murdered, how social services just came in and just dismantled her family, took her
Right.
children away from her,
Right.
and placed them in all these different homes. Um, that kind of remind me of back in the day, if you were on welfare and social services found that you had a man in the house, they would take your money away from you because the man wasn't supposed to be there. So they kind of like dismantled the family,
Hmm.
which that was really sad that she had to go through that, not first her husband being murdered, but then them taking her children away from her,
Right. Right.
you know.
Right. I want to jump in with one of my other favorite parts. It is the hair burning scene, because we were just talking about how
Oh,
try to you try
put
to
the permanent.
get your hair, you try to get
Oh,
your hair to look like the right person's, and it's like
right.
so, Shorty, he made the goop, right, the stuff that you put in your hair,
Mm-hmm.
and he got this stuff in the hair. And it's like every time they did that scene, it was always funny. So the first time
Mm-hmm.
is I think the very first time where he got to put in this relaxer, and the guys in the barbershop was looking at him, was like, don't worry about it. It's only going to do you what it did to us. And they took their hats off, and they were
Oh
both
yeah.
scared. So they were like,
Right.
right. So they were laughing at him when it started to burn. And then it was
Right.
like, gotta get it out, Shorty, gotta get it out.
Yeah. How
So
about the
yeah,
scene? How about that one where he put the relaxer in his hair and they wasn't no water?
right. There was no water, and they're running
No
around trying to
water in the
get water anywhere. Finally, put his head in the toilet,
in the
and
toilet.
then the police shows up. So yeah,
Mhm.
that was pretty funny.
Yeah. That kind of remind me back. It kind of remind me when I put a perm in my hair and that stuff was burning so much. Because them perms they do burn your scalp, boy.
Right, right,
Woo!
right.
I remember them days when I used to put perms in my hair. I ain't had perm in years, but
Right,
ooh, I
right,
remember. I remember how it felt. So that's why it was funny.
right.
hmm
You want to get in another one of your favorite parts?
Um. Let me see. I would have to say. Oh, another part that I liked in the film was when he was with Sophie and she was cooking him. She cooked him breakfast, and he started looking at her a little different. I guess he felt like, I'm with you, but you can turn against me anytime you want to. You could cry, you could call, cry rape, because back in those days, that's what happened.
Right,
If you got caught with if a white woman got caught with a black man, a white woman could scream rape, and the black man would get crucified for it. So I guess she wanted to let him know how much, because she seemed to really, really care about him. She really cared about him, but he made her kiss his foot because he wanted to see if I guess if she really cared about him,
right,
or if he was just a piece of thing to her,
right,
so that was another interesting part of the film too.
right. There's a certain amount of residual resentment that he kind of had toward white people in general, right? So
Yeah,
he was mistrustful of her, and he kind of
right.
wanted to see where her heart is in regards to him. Like he
hmm
because he's remembering how he had been treated by his family. He's remembering how he's having to run out of his house as a little kid. He's remembering that his father was murdered. He's remembering how the social services broke up his
hmm
family. So he carries that with him, or
right.
like he's treated on a daily basis by like when he's on the train, and how
hmm
he's treated by the passengers on the train. So um he carries this with him. So it's
Yeah,
like I think he's in love with her, but at the same time he doesn't trust her,
he
right?
doesn't
So
trust.
right. So because
Yeah.
it's all this residual resentment that he has. You can see it on his face, and you can see it in his demeanor. And it's like
hmm
it makes her uncomfortable, but at the same time, she's willing to go through this discomfort in order to prove herself to
Stuff
him,
to him.
because she
Yeah.
stays with him for a long time. So yeah,
And
that's
she probably would have continued to stay with him had they not went to prison.
right, right, right. That's
And then
basically what
they
fucked him up.
Yeah, but then that's what locked him up, because they went to prison actually for being he got locked up for being with a white woman.
Well, he got sentenced. He believes that he got sentenced longer for being with a white woman.
For
But I
being with a
think
white woman.
right, but I think in general, it's like the courts in general. It's like even if he wasn't with a white woman, they would give him and Shorty the maximum sentence just because they were black, right? So that they were
hmm
going to give him those sentences regardless. But that's basically how he saw it. Which
Yeah,
and I can't really fault him for that, but I think he would have gotten the maximum sentence regardless. But
regardless. Yeah.
that was also a funny scene when he was when Shorty fell out after the sentence. He's still handcuffed to Shorty, and Shorty gonna faint.
Oh yeah. Now
That was
that was a funny scene.
right,
Too. That's right. When
right,
Shorty fainted.
right. He said
He
he
thought
said
he
he said Shorty thought that the judge gave us 100 years
Yeah,
until I explained to him what concurrently means. Right.
right.
He was given
He
I think he was charged with like 15 counts or something like that. breaking
Mm-hmm.
it and stealing, but
Mm-hmm.
and each of those counts carried like 8 years, but he had to serve those years, or both of them had to serve those years concurrently, so they didn't have to worry about so they weren't stacked on top of each other. They
Over each
served
other,
all of
yeah.
them at the same time.
That's
Um,
what Shorty. That's what Shorty
right,
thought.
right. That's
Shorty,
what Short
Shorty
thinking, right?
passed.
But
That was fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But he was stealing. That's a problem. That's the risk
Right.
take, man. So that's I think that's why he started grinning when the judge was giving out the sentences, because he knew this was
Mm-hmm.
part of the game. It's like, yeah, I got caught, so now I got to pay the consequences. It's almost like he knew that this could happen, and it wasn't like
Right.
he was. And the thing he was caught after um he after he had that disagreement with West Indian Archie.
Mm-hmm.
So he was playing the numbers with West Indian Archie. He said that he played a certain number, and West Indian said, no, you didn't play the number. And then
Oh yeah.
right. And so then West Indian decided that, he got lied to and he's being cheated. So they was gonna have to kill him. So now he had to
Mm-hmm.
run away from West Indian Archie and his gang. And then he had to strike out trying to be a criminal on his own. So he settled on
Mm-hmm.
breaking and entering. That's what he wanted to do. And it turned
Mm-hmm.
out that apparently he wasn't good at it because he got caught. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He
Exactly.
left a bunch of evidence behind, and it's
Mm-hmm.
funny because in an age with no cameras and no and the only way they could really catch you is eyewitnesses and fingerprints, and somehow they got caught. So and then they probably got caught because they had the stuff on them, so they wasn't able to get rid of the stuff right away. So, or maybe they
Well,
caught like usually what happens, I think, is that they sell the stuff gets out on the street, and then somebody identifies that as stolen, either the original owner or somebody who knows the original owner, or somebody was like, I recognize that ring, that ain't your
right.
ring. So it
Mm-hmm.
eventually gets traced back to him as the guy who sold the stuff in the first place. So apparently not that
Yeah.
good at selling stolen goods. Maybe that's why he got caught.
Right. Yep.
So let me run down the rest of my favorite parts real quick. I liked Denzel's commanding presence and his resemblance to Malcolm X. I like that part. It's just that he just him being on the screen is the thing that kind of makes me watch it, because the thing about this movie is that it is kind of long, and you don't necessarily feel the length, but you're kind of aware of it when it gets into these kind of drawn out scenes. So you had a dance scene, you have the scene where you have a lot of Malcolm X speeches, you have a lot of it's a lot for a movie.
It
um
is.
uh,
Some things could have been cut out.
right. So but I think that Denzel's presence makes this length bearable. I do like
Yes.
to, even though I said there were a lot of speeches, it's just that the way that Denzel delivers the speeches it has a lot of power and conviction behind it. So I do
Mm-hmm.
enjoy that, or a lot of his conversations with people. And the last
Mm-hmm.
thing I'll say, there's one of my favorite parts is the fight between Malcolm X and Betty, or between Betty and Malcolm X, and how Betty is like, she has these misgivings about their stature in the Nation of Islam, and mainly because there are some people that are jealous, like some of the other ministers are getting jealous of him, that he's
Jealous
getting
of
too big. Right,
yeah.
right. He's
Mm-hmm.
getting too big for the organization, and they think that he needs to be taken down a peg. And he's like backed by Elijah Muhammad for most of it, until he kind of disobeys directly Mahajah Alam,
Elijah Muhammad. Yeah.
yeah, Elijah Muhammad. He kind of
Mm-hmm.
disobeys him in regarding to the JFK assassination. So there are and then he had to be like silenced for like a
Mm-hmm.
night, something like that. So
Yeah.
and then he tried to start his own organization, but it's like that's not good enough. They want to take him out anyways. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on. And
Yeah.
and so that is what the fight and also the improprieties of Elijah Muhammad himself. Is like he's not perfect, and then when he confronts Muhammad, is like, Elijah Muhammad doesn't necessarily deny it, right? He says, a man has needs, a man has to have some heirs. I'm only gonna
Mm, right.
I gotta have some
Yeah.
children. Right? So he's
Right.
but that was wild. So that kind of shook his faith. And so that's the argument that because Malcolm didn't want to hear it at first. Malcolm didn't want to
Yeah.
believe that his leader was fallible because his leader had brought him out of darkness and into the light. So he couldn't accept that his leaders were flawed. But then he had to see
Yeah.
it from something that basically led him on a different path. But yeah, that was
Mhm.
that was Angela Bassett doing her thing. And he was like, I just love it when she kind of lets loose with her superpowers of acting.
Oh yeah. She's another great actress. Angela Bassett. I mean, what could you say? I mean, she was great, especially in Waiting to Excel. I mean, you think back at all her scenes, all her characters in movies, and how she played her characters. I mean, she really puts herself in her characters. I
Yeah,
mean, she
yeah.
really does. Even when she played Tina Turner and What's Love Got to Do with It, and Waiting to Excel, and she's just a phenomenal actress. um has she gotten an Oscar yet?
I know she was
I don't
nominated,
even
but I
think
don't know if she actually won.
she was nominated, but she hasn't gotten an Oscar yet.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think she was nominated
Okay.
for the role in Black Panther 2. All of us.
Yeah, I mean, you name it. Angela, what could you say? She's a bad mamma jamma. That's all I got to say. And she
That's
still looks good for her age. I mean, she takes care of herself. Angela Bassett is a bad mamma jamma, like the song.
absolutely.
She's a bad mamma jamma.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So
What could you say? Angela Bassett. She's bad.
that's awesome. That's it for our favorite part. So we're going to go on to the next segment. We're going to talk about the trivia. So the trivia is stuff that I found on IMDb for the most part, most of the stuff. And then sometimes I have to re-verify the stuff because it's like the stuff that I sometimes find on IMDb, I cross check it and it's not exactly correct. Like it's close to the truth, but not exactly the truth. But
Uh-huh.
so you could kind of take this with a grain of salt, but some of it sounds true to me. And I picked 10 of the most impactful things behind the scenes that I saw with this movie, Malcolm X. So to start us off, I want to talk about Spike Lee. So Spike Lee removed all mention of Louis Farrakhan from the film after receiving specific direct threats from him. So that's fascinating. I didn't know about that.
Mm, I didn't know about that either.
It seems like a thing that Louis Farrakhan. Well, I don't know Louis Farrakhan. I don't know. I know that him and I got the feeling. I don't want to say I know. I had the impression that him and Malcolm X are probably rivals. I don't know that for sure. I know that back in the day he was known as Louis X, but later changed his name to Louis Farrakhan. So, but that's a fascinating tidbit. So what's the next thing?
The next thing is, oh, you know what? I gotta bring my thing up. Let me see. I done lost it. Bear with me.
Sure, no problem.
I'm having technical difficulties, so
Technical difficulties. Please stand by.
okay. How come I don't have that? Okay, we're at
We're at number 9.
The finale, right?
No, number 9 trivia top 10.
Oh, number 9. Okay, hold on.
So I just read the Spike Lee
Oh,
stuff.
never. Okay, so the film features 3 generations of Washingtons. Denzel Washington, his son John David Washington, and his mother Lennis Washington.
That's
Mm,
awesome. I didn't know about
that
that.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a family affair. He got his whole family in the movie.
He got the
Uh,
whole family in the film. Yeah.
there's probably some reasons he was able to get his whole family in the movie. I have my theories. Let's. I'm gonna continue reading and see if I can uncover how he was able to get his whole family in the movie. So initially, Spike Lee requested $33 million for this film, or $73 million in 2024 dollars, a reasonable sum considering its size and scape, but much more than his precious his previous budget. Is like way more than he's ever got from the other movies that he's ever made. Now, because these five previous films combined had grossed less than $100 million domestically, Warner Brothers offered $20 million for a 2 hour and 15-minute film, plus 8 million from Largo Entertainment for the foreign rights. When the film went $5 million over budget, Lee kicked in most of his salary, but the financiers shut down post-production. Lee went public with his battles and raised funds from celebrity friends, including Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, and Bill Cosby. And even Denzel Washington put up his salary to get this film made and for Lee to retain control of the project. After a positive screening of a rough cut, Warner Brothers kicked in more funds. So it was kind of a community effort to get this film
To,
made. And
to get the
maybe
film made. Yeah.
right. And it seems like Denzel Washington kind of did this movie for free. So with Denzel Washington kind of sacrificing his fee for being in a film, maybe that's how he got his family. And it's like, I'm doing this movie for free. So in return, you got to put my mama and my son and everybody else in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm doing you a favor. Two hands up, one hand wash the other, you
Right,
know?
right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this was the first non-documentary film too that was given permission to film in Mecca. So the film's second unit filmed all the scenes there. So, you know,
Yeah. So famously, non-Muslims are not allowed to enter Mecca, and Spike Lee tried really hard to get in, but it was like, well, no, you can't get in, but we'll let your film crew go in as long as they're Muslim, right? So the
right.
scenes in Mecca, I don't think that the scenes with Denzel Washington in Mecca are were filmed in Mecca, but there are scenes where you had like the pilgrimage. They were going around the statue and certain sceneries. I think
Mhm.
those were filmed in Mecca, but the actual um the actual portions or parts where you see Denzel Washington, that was probably not actually filmed in Mecca.
Right.
um I didn't actually find like the how exactly how they cut that together, like what parts were
Mm,
exactly filmed in Mecca and what parts and where the other parts filmed that I'm not exactly sure. um
right.
Now, at the film's ending, when Nelson Mandela addressed a South African classroom, he quotes a Malcolm X speech directly. He refused to repeat the last four words by any means necessary. So Spike Lee inserted black and white footage of Malcolm X saying it himself. The line originated from, oh man, I forgot to practice his name. All right, so there's a French name that I'm about to say. It's
Mhm.
difficult to pronounce, but I'm going to attempt it. The line originated from Jean-Paul Sartre's play Le Marsal. Le Marsal. It's French for dirty hands. So that's where that line first came from. I didn't know that by any means necessary came from a French play. That is fascinating.
Yeah. That is fascinating. I didn't know that either. That's news to me.
Right.
Mm. So Brother Baines, who leads Malcolm X to the Nation of Islam, is a fictional composite character. In his autobiography, Malcolm X says he was led to the Nation of Islam through letters from his brother and sister. So,
Right.
so that's
So
interesting. Mm.
right. They often do this in films like this where and sometimes books too, but so this is supposed to be a biopic So in biopics, they tend to make changes in characters and whatnot. So in order to make the story more concise, they'll create composite characters. So he's representative. So in certain aspects, Baines is representative of Malcolm X's own brother and sister. And then later on in the film, he's kind of representative of the leaders and the other ministers in the Nation of Islam that were jealous of Malcolm X. So
Mhm.
so he's
Yeah.
actually, I feel like he's fulfilling like multiple roles. So the scene where Betty Savage argues with Malcolm about his misplaced loyalties to Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam were contrived mostly to add dramatic effect to the film. The real life Shabazz said the scenes were inaccurate, and she and Malcolm never argued nor raised their voices at one another, and she supported her husband at every turn. It's true that Betty supported Malcolm totally. However, in the autobiography of Malcolm X, Malcolm himself says, the only time, and I'm quoting this quote, the only time we ever argued was once, end quote, when Betty accused him of not putting aside enough money for his rapidly growing family. That's four daughters at the time. Mrs. Shabazz is perhaps misremembering. So
Mm,
she she might be adding a little flourish to her own
right.
story. Uh,
Right.
yeah, that was like, as I said earlier, that's one of my favorite parts of the movie, though, that particular argument.
Yeah. That was an excellent scene in that film. Really good scene. To
Right.
prepare for his role, Denzel Washington avoided eating pork, and he attended Fruit of Islam classes and learned to Lindy hop. He was so in character that he even knew which pair of glasses Malcolm X was wearing on a particular day. Wow, he was really into that character. They say
Yeah.
once you get into a character, it's hard to come out of a character. I heard, like when the movie is over, sometimes people are still in that character.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that might be true for like people who go really deep into method acting. I think that it might be trouble for them. And I've heard some actors, they know how to they'll slide in and out as soon as the scene ends, they're out of character. So and then some
right,
actors, it's not, they're basically playing a version of themselves, not so much deeply into a particular character. So
right.
that I think that most roles just requires an actor to be a version of themselves. But then there are some roles, especially when you're dealing with roles where you're playing a particular person, like a real
Uh,
person, then a
yeah,
role like that kind of requires you to completely subsume yourself to that
to that
real
that
person.
that person. Yeah, that's
Right, right.
true. Yeah.
So a month before this film was released, Spike Lee asked that media outlets send black journalists to interview him. However, the request proved controversial. While it was common practice for celebrities to pick interviewers who were known to be sympathetic to them, it was the first time in many years in which race had been used as a qualification. Lee clarified that he was not barring white interviewers from interviewing him, but that he felt, given the subject matter of the film, that black writers have, quote, more insight about Malcolm than white writers, end quote. The request was turned down by the Los Angeles Times, but several others agreed, including Premiere Magazine, Vogue, Interview, and Rolling Stone. The Los Angeles Times explains that they did not give writer approval. The editor of Premiere noted that the request created internal discussions that resulted in changes at the magazine, stating, quote, we had a history of putting a lot of black writers on stories about the move. Well, I'm misquoting it. Let me start again. Quote, had we had a history of putting a lot of black writers on stories about movie industry, we'd have been in a stronger position, but we didn't. It was an interesting challenge he laid down. It caused some personnel changes. We've hired a black writer and a black editor, end quote. So what they're saying is, at least Premiere Magazine specifically is saying that they weren't even sending out black people to cover the movie industry, and then they thought maybe we should have black writers covering the movie industry. Maybe that's important. Maybe that's something that we should consider, right? That's the state of race relations in the 1990s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Isn't that something? Uh, the
Right, right,
speech
right.
the speech that plays over the documentary footage of Malcolm X's life near the end is read by Ozzie Davis, who wrote and delivered the eulogy at Malcolm X's funeral service in 1965. Hmm.
Right.
Wow.
So that's pretty awesome. He was able to get a lot of very impactful, very prominent, and very powerful individuals to participate in the film. He got Nelson and Mandela. He got Ossie Davis. He got a lot of uh he got a lot of important people to participate, and I think that's fascinating.
Oh yeah, very fascinating. Yeah. Yep.
So that's
Hmm.
it for the trivia. I hope you learned something. I hope you got something out of it. These were the most interesting things I found, and when I was doing the research for this project. So that's it for the trivia. Let's go and see what the critics thought. So we're going to check out what the critics thought. The critics gave it
Okay,
a
let's see what the critics. Yeah, let's see what the critics
yeah.
had
Let's
to
see what the
say.
critics had to say. Right, the critics gave it 88%, and the audience have it at a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb reviews has it at 7.7 out of 10. So yeah, great reviews. Very high regard for this film. So
Hmm.
why don't you tell us what the first couple of critics thought about the movie?
Well, Vincent Canby, New York Times, an ambitious, tough, seriously considered biographical film that, with honor, eludes easy characters. I can't even say it. How do you say it? Zation?
Yeah, yeah, you got it. I know exactly what you're going through. I go through that all of the time. When I can do something without messing up a word, it's a miracle. So yeah,
Yeah.
this character, yeah, this he's saying this movie eludes easy characterization, and I think that is an accurate description of the movie. And now,
Hmm.
what's funny is that I like to get positive reviews, and I like to get negative reviews, and because this has
Right.
like an 80% with critics, it's often difficult to find the negative reviews of the film. But the next one you're about to get is going to be a negative review, so let's see what they have to say.
And this is from Dolores Barclay from the Associated Press. She says Lee's movie, despite good intentions, does not inspire any visceral realities. It simply is too superficial, too theor. I can't say the word. Too
Theatric,
theatrically poised, without hard edge that could have made it a masterpiece. And this is coming from Dolores Barclay from the Associated Press.
right? And I think
I
she's saying that it wasn't hard enough for her, or something like that. And I don't know exactly what she was looking for.
That's what I was going to say. What was she looking
Right,
for?
right,
It wasn't an
right.
action-packed film. What was she looking for? Action-packed film or something? I don't know.
No, I don't know exactly know, but um, I don't know. I think that being breaking an entry, being thrown in jail. I think
Yeah.
those are some harsh enough realities. I don't understand
Yeah.
what she means by superficial,
Well,
but it's an interesting point of view, but it's not something that I
yeah.
can fully understand. Up next
Right.
is Marjorie Baumgarten from the Austin Chronicle. She wrote, "Though at times it borders on see, this is one of those words. See, I'm going to have the same problem that you just had."
Uh-oh.
And what's funny is that I had to look this word up because I don't know it. So she wrote,
Right.
"So at times it borders on the hagiographic. Malcolm X is remarkably faithful to the essence of the man, his anger, his sly wit, his perpetual growth." And it's funny, right? Because this is a positive review, but she's almost saying the same thing as Dolores Barkley. And so, because
Yeah.
I had to look up hagiographic, and that means that it's too praising. It's depicting Malcolm X as too good a guy. That's basically what, and she says it borders on that. It borders on picturing him as too good, like it's too flawless, it's too perfect. So it's borderline on that. But I think that most bio biographical films, they kind of tend to be that way. They basically put their subjects in a positive light. So
Right.
maybe it was almost too positive. Maybe I don't know if I entirely agree with that, but that's what she's saying.
Yeah, I mean, because the movie is based on it's a like it's a biographical film. What were they looking for? I mean, it's based on his life, and what did they want? They want something fictional. I mean, it was
Well,
it's based on Malcolm X's life, so
well, I think that she's saying specifically that. Hold on. She is saying that it's faithful and it's faithful to Malcolm X, and it shows him
right.
in a good light. But hold on. My mouth's getting dry, and I didn't bring water down here, so
Okay.
now I'm coughing, so that's not good for audio. So
Hey.
she's just saying that was just one of her things that she noticed about it, is that it's showing it may be too good, right? So
Right.
and I can understand that because they tend to do that in biographies.
Mm-hmm.
I
You
should have brought
okay?
some water down here. No, just a
Yeah,
dry
you should have
throat.
brought you some water. Make sure you keep some water with you next time.
This is embarrassing. Coughing on live TV.
Nah. Oh, that's all right. It's human. You being human. That's all.
All right. Let's see. The show's almost over. So let's see if we can get through these final parts. So
Okay.
Jonathan Rosenbaum, he's from the Chicago Reader. He wrote, benefits from a lively lead performance by the miscast Denzel Washington, but doesn't come with the within light years of the book, one of the greatest American autobiographies. Excuse me. So this all these coughs are going to be edited out. So in the audio version.
That's the good thing
The
about
video
editing.
version, yeah, but the video version, they're going to have all the coughs. So anyways,
All right. Mm-hmm.
what you call it. So in this, it's kind of funny that he says this because I think that Denzel Washington is perfectly cast, and he's also comparing the movie to the actual book, where everybody knows that when you have a movie based on a book, the book is always going to be better. So
Right.
I'm definitely not in
You
the
can't
glee.
you can't put everything you can't put everything in the book on film. You're
Right,
talking
right,
about
right,
Malcolm X movie was already 3.5 hours long.
right.
So if you put it in the book version, you're talking about the movie going well over 3 to 4 hours. So of course the book version is always going to be better than the film,
Yeah, yeah. The book's
or have more details,
right,
in
right,
the
right.
book
The book is going
than
to have
it would in the film.
more details. It's going to have more nuance
Right.
and more character. So yeah, I think it's unfair to compare the book to the film. I think it's more fair to compare a film to other films, right? So
Right.
and then he said that Denzel Washington miscast. I just think that's I just completely disagree with that. So that's
Who
all I can
else could have played? Who else could have played? Yeah, like who else could have played Malcolm X better than Denzel Washington? I can't see anybody else playing that role but him. You know,
yeah, I would
I
have to
mean
go
that's how I feel.
yeah,
Who
I would have to
do you think there's anybody else who could have played Malcolm X better than Denzel Washington?
well, I can't after seeing the movie, I can't imagine anybody else from that time period playing Malcolm X. I can't imagine it. Now I'm sure that
Yeah.
there are that some
Yeah.
actors could have probably done it, but I can't imagine it right now. I can't think of any right
Me-
now that could have done
right.
such a fantastic job. But
Yeah.
I'm sure that you know, Spike Lee probably looked at several candidates, but also Denzel Washington is his favorite actor to work with, so it's kind of hard to say. But to say
Yeah.
that Denzel Washington miscast is like, no, I don't even agree with that at all. But
No, I don't agree with that either. And matter of fact, at all the roles that he played, all the phenomenal roles that Denzel Washington played, he gets the Oscar for Training Day.
yeah, so that's crazy.
Playing a bad
Playing a bad guy, right?
yeah, playing a bad guy.
Right, right.
Well,
So
well,
finally,
he started out well, he was a bad guy in Malcolm X too, the movie. I mean, he started out as a hustler
yeah,
and a
yeah,
robber.
right,
I
right,
mean, but
right.
he turned his life around and became a
Yeah,
Muslim. So, you know.
yeah. This is a character art, so I really wouldn't count this because excuse me, in a movie with a character arc like this one, he had a really huge arc. He
Yeah.
started off as somebody who did not have direction, and at the end of his life had a purpose and a direction. So that's
Mhm.
what you do in film is you take somebody who's a little rough around the edges and then make them into like they're better or they're changed in some way by the end of the movie.
Mhm.
So I really wouldn't call him a bad guy in that sense. It's like
Well, yeah.
you got to look at a
Yeah.
movie like I'm trying to think like Scarface, where he's bad at in the beginning of the film, and he's basically worse at the end of the film.
At
Like
the end of the film,
he's
he
still
went from
bad.
bad to worse. Yeah.
Right.
Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
still a
That's
bad
a
guy.
class.
Yeah.
Still a bad guy. He went from a
Right.
bad guy to a worse guy.
Right. Absolutely.
That's a classic film,
Right.
Scarface. Yeah.
Absolutely. So finally, Malcolm X is, as of this recording, available on streaming. That's it for today. Next week will be our regular audio only version, and I'm joined by the amazing um wow, I typed this up and it's all wrong. I'm joined by the amazing Katie from Retromade. Katie is a huge fan, is not a huge fan of sci-fi, but I asked her to challenge herself. So you can join us and find out what Katie thinks about Universal Soldier. You can follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, or Threads. Don't forget you can contact us with any questions, comments, or suggestions, or comment on this very video. But otherwise,
Mhm.
you can find us at fanmail@backlinkcinema.com. Crystal, do you have any additional plugs?
Yeah. Make sure y'all tune in to my platform. Let's talk about this podcast on YouTube. Um, all you have to do is type in chicks 2567. Chicks is like chicks. And once you type that in the search in YouTube, it'll bring you right to the YouTube channel. And the channel is based on mental health and wellness. And I want people to make sure they take care of their mind as well as they take care of their body. And you can also find me on Instagram at let's talk about this. Well, let's underscore talk underscore about underscore this underscore podcast. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm all over the place. So
Right,
so
right.
yeah. So yeah, you can
I gotta,
and you can catch us every Friday at 7 o'clock. We have a new episode. We try to have a new episode every Friday. Depends on whether the guests show up or not.
right. Yeah, I've had that happen. So
Yeah.
thanks. I know that you out there listening, you've enjoyed our guest Crystal Hicks. So please check us out or check out her
Yes.
podcast. Let's talk about this. I've been Zoe Richardson. Be safe. Share a movie from yesteryear with your family. Hug your loved ones. Happy Father's Day. And if you're going to be anything, be outstanding.